And good evening. This is Dave Messina. I'm covering for Josh. And with me is Dan Oakes. Greetings. And Alex Suarez. Alex should be studying, but we'll give him a bye for an hour.
I'm doing homework right now as we speak.
Excellent. The master multitasker. So
All I have
Josh
to do
has
is use
shared
this.
a couple of things with us. To start off, we have, if you saw in the general Discord that we've announced the imminent offering of two T-shirts, one for freestyle and one for racing, and I'm really excited about this. This is the artwork is by Miss Creature, who is a an FPV pilot herself, as well as an auto mechanic, which uh, I share that love of cars and love her artwork. We're excited to be bringing those out. It looks like we'll have them available approximately the middle of this month, and we'll say we'll make sure that that announcement is at least on Facebook, as well as a number of other vehicles.
Yes,
And
I
thank you,
posted
Dan.
posted the picture again in the general chat. The one on the left is the design for the freestyle t-shirt, and the one on the right-hand side is the design for the racing t-shirt. And everybody needs to get one of each, right?
That's right. That's right. So these are going to be high quality. These are lots of colors on these, and we put them on gray, 100% cotton. So they gray because the colors pop very nicely. So
Yeah,
excited about that.
they should get some people's attention if you're walking around with that shirt. Hopefully, some fellow FPV pilots will recognize it and ask you about it.
Yeah, and
And
Miss
then you can,
Creature's artwork is distinctive. What's that, Alex?
and then when they ask you about it, you can point to the website link on the shirt for other people to get one. Exactly.
That's it. That's it.
And let's see, did
Very
we
proud.
did get the fpvfc.org like sticker, yep, in some of those designs.
And
I
it
missed it.
says fpvfc.org all
Yeah.
over the artwork. So we're really grateful how many times Christy put that in the art. Another fun, very positive piece of work is James Christensen. If I posted a couple times on our Facebook group about his James documentary called Flow State, and he's won an award. And that's so he had the documentary completed, and then the way this works is you take your documentary around to film festivals, and you enter it in competitions. And we're happy to say that he's won a an award. The name of the award is slipping my mind, but
Let's see, this award from the picture it says the Best Documentary Award from the Mile High International Film Festival.
there you go.
And if you look at the
Thank you.
screenshot you shared, there was three other awards on that image as well. Um,
Yeah, as he cited, yet another award. So yeah, really
it,
happy to see
it
that.
also says Best Cinematography from the Golden Gate International Film Festival, which I think that was the one where you could watch it online, and the demand crashed their system basically.
Great.
Best Feature Documentary from Las Vegas Independent Film Festival, and an award winner from the FIFF London. So I don't know what an award winner means. Nothing specific, just you won an award. Participation trophy. But yeah,
We
that
had
it
the
sounds like this is exactly the plan. Get a bunch of these awards, and then that helps them get the attention of Netflix and Amazon to try to get it on to those platforms as well.
right, right. We had the pleasure of working with James at the on the chapter 8 of the documentary. So I was flattered that it talked to us as well. So that's so there's a mention of FPVFC in the inflow state credits as well. So
Yeah,
that's
I just hope the movie does make it to something like Netflix or Amazon before the drones that are in it are totally obsolete, and we'll be watching it and say, "Hey, remember when we used to fly drones that looked like that?"
History
Yeah,
lesson.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
already
One
going to
of
get
the
pretty close to that, but yeah.
yeah one of the video clips was make sure you respond to the remote ID NPRM, and I'm like, that was a long time ago, and but so that's a documentary. I was reminded of that, but yeah, I agree. It's like wow, or it will be able to look at it and say, wow, look at
I
that.
remember that.
Everyone's flying analog.
The better system.
I don't know about
I'm
that.
liking I'm liking my shark bite,
I still have to try Shark Bite, but that means I have to buy it first.
and his that's usually how that works.
And all the new stuff,
All
there's a
right,
bunch of new stuff coming out for Sharkbite, but it's not available to the public yet, as far as I know, like the higher output power video transmitter and better camera. Or you got a better camera, right? Have you tried that?
I did. I have not. I've
Okay.
been uh, being festive and with through Thanksgiving, and I've not connected it. All I need to do is disconnect, pull off a nano camera, and plug it into a MIPI and give it a shot. I'm excited to try it, and I put my ground lenses back into my Fat Shark goggles, so now I'll be able to see what I'm looking at. So I'm
Oh,
set to
did you
go.
swap those into DJI goggles or something? Okay.
I did,
So you
and
just
now
have
they're back out.
the one set that you move between goggles.
Well, I now have two sets,
Oh.
so I solved that problem.
All
All
right.
right,
What do we have for the first thing from Josh on the news then?
I think it was it the Michigan drones from Ottawa County?
Yep, that's the first link I've got there.
That's the one. Okay, so this is significant, and Ryan Lauderet, I'm pretty sure, was involved. He's posted this, and this is the second win that they've had, and so for this is a significant ruling by the judge because it's the in the same circuit, it's my understanding, same ruling, which is the judge said that federal preemption adheres to the or takes precedent for this case, and that's really good news for us from a perspective of when a local municipality tries to put a drone ordinance in place and they overstep their authority and they're trying to control the airspace. That's not the way our Constitution with its amendments work, and so that's called federal preemption. And that when the federal government has authority over something, that's the final word. And so what is happening is across the country, various municipalities will state that drones are not allowed to fly. Now they can state that you cannot take off or land, but they do not have any authorization or jurisdiction in the airspace. So that's a really great. And as I said, Ryan Lauderet was involved, as well as our colleagues Vic Moss and Kenji Sukahara. So these guys
Okay, those two were
jumped
also
in
involved,
and
huh?
helped out. Yeah, and what's been effective is if an attorney is available, that's always very helpful. But it is there's a call to action to get folks to show up to the court proceedings, and that apparently has a very positive impact. And again, we want people to show up and be professional, polite, and productive, just like signing an NPRM, and that whole technique has been effective.
Yeah, it's too bad that local cities and counties are trying to put in place rules like this, but it's good to see that they can get overturned with the right organization behind it.
Yep. Yeah, and we've had this conversation with Jay Merkel, asking when the FAA will get involved themselves, and they the response was that they keep an eye on each of these, and not yet was the response. So we also keep the FAA aware of what's going on as well. Next up, I think was Walmart.
There's a link, and I'll share a
So
screen with that.
This one is interesting. So in the article, it describes a number of hubs that Walmart is contemplating, and they are first starting out in their headquarters home territory in Arkansas around Bentonville, and the area that they have gotten a waiver for is equivalent to the state of Rhode Island in area. So it's a rather large area to get beyond visual line of sight approval. So well, we have mixed emotions about package delivery. It's, I mean, if they can improve the overall reputation of drones, that's good. It they do go to the front of the line, it appears, and they being certainly Google and Amazon, who are way out in front in package delivery, and interesting to see that that Walmart is right in there as well. I also saw they took an equity position in a company called Drone Up Delivery.
Yeah,
droneupdelivery.com.
droneupdelivery.com.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so
this
they're
is
currently in
when
Farmington, Arkansas.
Farmington,
Well,
Bennington.
I also saw, yeah, Farmington is the location that you can actually do it right
Bentonville.
now.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody, any of our listeners out there are in that area and have tried it, we'd love to hear about it. I just think there's got to be so many potential problems with it. I'm sure it could work sometimes, but yeah, I wonder when we'll start to hear some of the stories of when it goes wrong. And I'm sure they've tested it, but like, what happens if somebody's dog decides to attack it while the cord's down? Does it disconnect the cable and fly away and just leave the whatever on the ground, or
what would be interesting is I wonder what sort of communication they've done around, please don't shoot these out of the sky.
Yeah, if that's the first thing people think of.
It's a felony, yeah. And I would imagine that that part of Arkansas is probably similar to or where I live in upstate New York, where every home has at least one shotgun. I mean, it comes with the house, you know, so it's that's normal tools of living.
Well, and even if you're not doing anything obviously intentional like that, how high are they flying when they're dropping the package? And what if your neighbor kids are out playing with a baseball bat or just anything that they can throw pretty high?
Yeah. And
the other
definitely look like pretty pricey octocopters.
The other thing I'm always curious about is you never see them delivering packages into neighborhoods that have lots of trees. They're just always in these sort of modern, new, open area places with very few trees. And like, my neighborhood's not super solid, but some neighborhoods just have complete tree canopy over your entire yard. Like, where's it going to land?
Well, it enters the roads first before it gets to trees, and it flies over the roads.
Well, it would have to
under
fly.
The tree canopy.
Yeah, under the trees, over the roads. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, down with the pickups.
Right. It's going to get knocked out of the sky for sure then. Anyway, that'll be fun to read about at some point in the future, the drone delivery failures.
And then we've got the 12 days of drones brought to us by the FAA. So to me, this was adorable. And they work hard on the title phrase, and then it gets really dry. But that's, you know, we are, this is the FAA, so they brought up some good topics, and we were just talking about this earlier. It appears to be completely directed to recreational, so that's nice. That and it's the photograph on the lead-in didn't look too derogatory. It looked the operator or pilot looked a little confused, but so that was one bit. They also, if you look at our website on fpvfc.org, you'll see that we put together a list that's pretty simple. This is what you need to fly to be recreational operator or pilot, and goes through, hopefully, pretty easy to read, a little easier to digest than what's up on the FAA site. But they continue to work on the FAA websites and try to make them a little easier. They do point out that they do want us to register, take the trust, carry safety guidelines, and follow the various airspace regulations.
Yeah, another thing I could bring up here in the middle of this, the YouTube video that the FAA created, they're talking about never interfere with wildfires response or hurricane recovery efforts. And I attended a Minnesota DNR and FAA hosted webinar where they were talking about drones interfering with the fire efforts in combating wildfires here in Minnesota. And I think the numbers they gave were fairly low, but it happens often enough that they're really concerned about it and are trying to brainstorm ideas to get the word out to the public that if you fly your drone near a wildfire, they have to halt their firefighting operations and try to figure out who's flying and get them to land and go away before they can start over again. So whatever we can do to get the word out there to everybody to not fly your drones near a wildfire, yeah, that would be great. I don't know what else we can do, but just keep mentioning it as much as possible.
And there are lots of municipalities that are starting up drone programs. Notably, New York City's FDNY has 17 full-time drone pilots. I got to meet one of them, and they're getting in on their personal flying. They're getting into FPV. So, and if you're in that area, if you live in the city, you know that it's you have to pretty much go out to the island, and if it's the island, or out to Jersey or up north where I live, to be able to fly legally. But any of these folks are very open to talking to, listening to, or flying with us. So it's a great way to get engaged. And if you want to help out, do it from the ground and do it when it's not an emergency. Because when there's a fire, that's not the time to approach public safety.
Yep. The other thing I was going to mention in this holiday drone message is near the end of it, they say, a drone is an aircraft and you are its pilot. Even though we often hear the FAA saying that recreational drone operators are not pilots, and there's a lot of probably manned aircraft pilots who wouldn't consider a drone an aircraft. So straight from the FAA, they're saying drones are aircraft and you are its pilot. At least whoever made this YouTube video is.
What was the movie Dakota? What was his name? The meme comes up where he says, "I'm a drone pilot. I guess you could say I'm a fighter pilot."
Right.
Great meme.
Basically a fighter pilot, yeah.
I guess the homework got too intense for Alex. Okay, next up on our topic list was an aerial application, and this is
right, farmers.
So this is interesting. So in the work that I do with the FAA, both in the tasking groups as well as on the Beyond Visual Line of Sight, the topic of agriculture spraying comes up quite a bit. And I remember in 2019, the first DAC, Drone Advisory Committee that I attended, there was a company from Seattle that flew in to just talk to people about finding a drone that could provide spraying. So I looked at this, and it carries about 100 pounds. So they 6 gallons, so pound to pint. So this is definitely a heavy lifter, as they would say. And the agricultural community is a very serious and an interesting bunch to work with. We had the pleasure of working with the Agriculture Aviation Association, and the work that they do is dangerous, and there's a lot of discussion in the work that we work with on the FAA about keeping safe, in terms of how do you not fly around someone who's spraying a field. So this is an application. The article is interesting. They talk about the weight. They talk about that they can cover 18 to 20 acres with a full load of pesticide or whatever it is that they're spraying, as well as a full set of batteries with a much lower cost point, and they can also respond very quickly. And an interesting. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I was just going to add, which is probably exactly what you're going to say next, that they can go places that, say, a crop duster can't. Like if your crops or your field is bordered by trees, they can get in close between the trees and the crops where the airplane would have had to pull up and lift off farther. I think he also talked about just being able to get more accurate and more close to the edges of the farm field than even just the normal equipment would have been able to do, which I find a little bit interesting. Yeah, I suppose if you have to turn in a corner, you'll miss some of it. Yeah.
So interesting, yeah.
So like they might combine both things, like do a field with a tractor, but then get the spots they missed, touch up spots with a drone or something like that.
Yep.
The other thing that I was wondering about is that if this is 100 pounds, that's well over all the stuff that we ever think about,
So
whereas this
type certified.
Yeah, it's not a small UAS under 55 pounds anymore. It's well over that. Like, what are all the different rules? I've never even thought about the rules for something over 55 pounds.
I think it just has to be type certified from the FAA for over 55 pounds.
Probably need a 135 cert?
No, you can. Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Is it cargo if you spray it out lightly?
Yeah. So, but with the bottom of the article said, "Oh yeah, contact so and so if you're interested in learning how to fly this." And I'm like, "Oh, this is very serious," as Dan points out. It's above 55 pounds, which is the limit for small UAS. And as Alex said, it just has to be type certified, which jumps the price point of it appropriately, because that means that this every piece of equipment, every component is built to quality specifications, as well as you can track it back. And as a system, this has all been certified by the FAA. So a pricey and serious piece of equipment. All right, next up was
FAA enforcement actions?
Yes, that was it. 70 FAA enforcement actions. So I saw this one, and what really caught my attention is we hear whenever we get around an NPRM or an impending rule, we hear a lot about, the FAA can't enforce or doesn't enforce, so why should I bother? And so this was interesting. And the first thing that he does point out, which I thought was quite helpful, and this, of course, is the same attorney who is representing Tyler Brennan in his suit against the FAA.
Jonathan Ruprecht.
Jonathan is putting out a number of really helpful articles in his newsletter, and this is one. But what's important is, as Jonathan points out, is the FAA does not bring criminal indictments, they bring civil. And so you can be fined, and they can also pull or impact other certifications. So we had one of the folks we were talking to about a year ago was an airline pilot, and he was very anxious about flying FPV. He wanted to make absolutely sure he was doing everything in a legit manner, because he did not want to risk having the FAA pull his pilot's license, which is his way of making a living. So the number 0.7 on this document, I don't know if we can dig into that.
Yeah, we could go through each of the graphs if you want to, just really quickly.
Just down just down real quick to I think it was item 7 was the list of areas of enforcement, and so this is where the FAA spends time.
Let's see. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pre-flight familiarization inspection. Is that the one? I must be looking at a different part of the web page than you were looking at.
Yeah. It is section 7, and it is hyperlinked from the top of the document.
Oh, okay. That is not labeled in any way on the page when you're scrolling through it as number 7. Okay.
All right. Can we display it?
Yeah, I've got it shared on. Everybody else can see it if you're looking at my shared screen.
Yes, I will. I will in a moment.
Or you can just look at yours too, and I can try to follow along. That's fine.
Nope. They got it. Thank you. I see it now.
One thing I was curious about while you're doing that, is this saying that there were only 70 enforcement actions, or is this just picking out 70 of the enforcement actions?
The latter, just 70 of the enforcement.
Okay. Do we have any idea how many total there were?
I don't.
I don't think the FAA can release that because of privacy laws.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Kevin said that.
He said that during one of your meetings or something.
Yep. Said that they can't release that because of that.
So as you scan down this list of 10, what are you getting? If the FAA starts investigating you, or me, or Alex, what are they going to pick on? From a probabilistic perspective, and these were somewhat redundant, but it really nets out to you didn't bring your documentation. So normal stuff like
you're doing a Part 107 operation. You don't have a Part 107.
Right. You don't have the right cert. You don't have the right documentation. You don't, and then you demonstrate careless behavior. Never good.
That's interesting. Number 2 and number 4 are both careless or reckless.
Yeah,
but under different parts.
Exactly. So that's why I've said they're somewhat redundant, but you definitely get a theme of, you weren't flying, in a responsible manner, and you didn't have the certification, you didn't bring the safety, where's the documentation, on and on. So to me, it was like, oh, okay. So these are all things that we know about, and most of them we can, even if we're flying freestyle. Drew Camden has had experience around the country where local police will come up and say, "What are you doing?" They explain it to them, and like, here, put on some goggles, and have them do a ride along, and they're jazzed. And so this one was interesting to me in terms of there's also the Law Enforcement LEAP program. Law Enforcement. What's the A? Help me, Alex. LE.
I don't have the card with me. I left that at home.
Law Enforcement
gave
something program.
Yeah.
Assistance. It's assistance. Law Enforcement Assistance Program. So what
those
happens
are the ones who
is
actually give you the fine stuff.
That's right. Or no, actually, they will turn you over to the FAA to start an investigation by the FAA. So local law enforcement has the authority to ask for your registration, which has to be visible on the drone. They can ask, what safety guidelines are you using, and that's about it. That's about all they'll ask for. They'll also ask for proof of trust. So carry your fancy little trust. I took the trust and passed. Or I took trust and passed.
Right.
Pardon me. The.
And then also with that is, I believe you can also have a digital copy too. You don't have to have a physical copy. Wow. Digital copy also works.
Good.
Because that's with 107.
Okay. Yeah, and I did know that with the registration. That was proof, as well as the guidelines, do not have to be hard copy either. Okay.
And no surprise, the first graph shows male versus female enforcement actions, and 2 female and 57 male, and 11 redacted. But I assume those are all men as well.
Well, they're guys.
I guess I'm surprised that there were 2 women.
Same here. I was that many. Yeah.
Right.
So in FPV, there's about a 90-10 to 95-5 ratio of men to women. So even though we don't even need the norm that guys get into trouble more often with anything that goes fast. So it's just our numbers, and anything we can do to attract girls and women into FPV is a good thing. And I'm thrilled with that in FPV racing is really coming on with more and more girls and women. That's great to see.
Well, our next article is not going to do anything to encourage anyone to start flying drones, that's for sure.
Yeah, this one is just. So I read the article, and this is just.
I
more
couldn't even get
fear-mongering.
myself to read the whole thing.
Yeah, death by drones. And so it's interesting that they use little drones on the cover, and then they talk briefly about swarming, but they don't use the word swarming. And then they describe a rise of nefarious usage as well as an emerging threat. And then they jump and mix in predator size, so large full-scale drones that the U.S. has been using around the world. So this is just another article. It's like we should be aware that this type of garbage is happening around us, and our response when we're asked about this is, well, we also drones have also been responsible for saving over 750 lives over the last 4 years. And did you hear about the 6-year-old in Iowa who was found in under 10 minutes because a drone had an infrared capability on it, and the little guy was out there for 6 hours until they figured out that they should use a drone to look for him. So lots of positive stories. That to me is the right response to something like this.
Yeah, there's millions of other ways people can do bad things if they want to. Drones are just one more of them, and we really haven't seen it be used much at all. So they threw out an example like, oh, what could a little drone do with a stadium full of people? Yeah, and what could a water balloon launcher with something in it shot into a stadium do to a stadium full of people too? Like, does it have to be a drone? There's so many other things if people are creative. So, yep, like you said, this is just one of those fear-mongering articles to get clicks and scare people.
Woohoo!
But then we could move
Okay.
on to a better story that is one of those examples of using things for good.
Drones for good, reforestation. So watching any of the videos on this is just fascinating. So they're dropping little
Seeds.
canisters like size of a puck, and it sounds like they're putting seedlings in these. And they did mention that planting the trees by hand has a higher efficacy, but this is a great way to get this done in a high volume.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard stories about this for a long time now, so it's been quite a few years.
Yeah, and obviously,
Yeah, they've been doing it for several years. We've been using videos of tree planting in our GATA classes for a while.
Yeah, and of course, this is relevant coming out of Sacramento with they're in a world of hurt with all the loss of all the wildfires that have gone through California.
Yeah, this video is going and showing lots of wildfires and damage, and yeah, replanting after a wildfire, it looks like.
Yeah. Drone seed, love it. So there was before we get to the monocopter, there was one thing that I did want to mention, which is the FAA issued on, and Alex found it. Thank you. I found it the Friday before when they pre-released it. It was the strategy policy on the vertical accuracy of the ground control station in remote ID. So, if if this isn't complicated, so there are two types of remote ID. There is remote ID that is integrated into the UAS, and that's called a standard remote ID. And then if you want to retrofit, you can acquire a broadcast module, and then that second class is called remote ID broadcast module. For the this document that the FAA put out on November 22 was a strategy policy about the vertical accuracy of the ground control station being 15 feet. So in other words, the with a and it's different from a broadcast module, but the standard remote ID UAS has to broadcast the location of the aircraft as well as the controller or transmitter, hence the operator, on a 1 hertz basis, so once a second. So the lateral accuracy was fine. That's not an issue. And the statement of the NPRM was that this should be off-the-shelf components. And the vertical accuracy for the aircraft was 150 feet, if memory suits. And the vertical accuracy for the transmitter was 15 feet. So
Which
that's
sounds ridiculously accurate.
Ridiculous. So we spent weeks and weeks and weeks on this in the ASTM F3411 working group. We brought in some of the smartest people certainly I have ever met on GPS. These are amazing engineers from all variety of companies working on manned aviation GPS, and they are literally world experts on GPS. And their response was, "Wow, we've never seen anything that's so stringent. Airliners don't have a 15-foot accuracy requirement." So the president of ASTM sent a memo to the FAA, and this document on November 22nd was the response, which basically said, no, we're going to keep it at 15 feet. Now, why does the FAA want to know the vertical location the vertical location with 15-foot accuracy of the operator? And the answer is DHS would like to know what floor of a building the operator is flying the drone from. So
because so many people are doing nefarious things by flying drones from the 8th floor of a building and
inside of a building.
Okay.
Yeah, common sense does not really come to bear.
You can imagine some crazy scenario, but yeah, I don't know. Like somebody's out there creating these crazy ideas and then trying to pass regulation to stifle them.
So we are, what recourse do we have? We're really not sure, but we're working to create a concerted effort. So if anyone listening has any ideas, or if they have anyone that they would like us to make sure that we contact, we're working with a variety of companies who are also members of the ASTM working group. We're also working with our colleagues Vic Moss and Kenji Sukahara and Pilot Institute. We also have alerted all of our FPV retailer colleagues, as well as Flight Test with Josh Bixler. So we'll see what makes sense, but certainly 15-foot vertical accuracy does not make sense. And Josh Cook did a little hunting, and if you'd say, well, who cares? What is the impact of this? Well, it matters from a price perspective.
Right. So in short, the FAA is saying yes, it is technically possible to meet this 15-foot requirement. You just have to have a GPS that can do, was it WAAS, which is the FAA's own like enhancement to GPS where they've got towers across the country that allow airplanes to get greater accuracy to find their airfields, right? Something like that.
Well described.
So the
It's
FAA is like, hey,
ground-based
no,
software.
this is logical. You can do this. Just buy this really expensive equipment and put it in your radios.
Right. So Josh found a price point of a WAS-enabled GPS at $100. The GPS cost is about $8.
A
So
non
this is
WAAS.
non-WASP, like a U-Block 8. Like if you look at underneath the technology of most of the GPSs that like Race Day Quad sells a nice little, very inexpensive GPS. That's a U-Block 8 underneath. That's what the chip is. And so that goes for 3, 5, it's under $10. The WAS enabled GPS $100 price point, unit one. So let's say that we could, that
Yeah,
a
that's
manufacturer,
the manufacturer's wholesale cost, right? Before they pass it on to you.
if the wholesale cost is even $50, you have to mark up for integration of a chip, the software, firmware, maintenance, etc. This could easily add $300 to the price of a transmitter. So we take this very seriously. And again, this is not affecting the broadcast module operation of remote ID, but it does impact the standard remote ID UAS. And the manufacturers will have to start shipping that in September 2022. And then we're going to have to start complying in September 2023.
So I've already
We
sort
got
of
those,
forgotten the
got those
difference.
dates, right?
Yep. The difference between standard and if you have a remote ID module. If DJI wants to sell a drone in the United States in a year from now, will it have to be standard compliant?
Yes.
So
If it's a,
like the DJI
it,
FPV radio, like this radio would have to have that $100 GPS chip in it in order for
in
DJI to
fact,
sell it.
yeah, that's a great example because if that's the DJI FPV drone, which is sold effectively as a ready to fly, you link it, turn it on, and it go fly. That's absolutely that's the definition of a standard remote ID. If on the other hand you were building your own drone and going to fly it for recreational purposes, then it would be a home built, and that would you would be able to use the remote ID broadcast module for that.
And there's no way this can be grandfathered in because this does not have a WAS compatible GPS chip in it today, so there's no firmware update that could possibly make it compatible.
And that I think that's accurate, and that's one of the things we're trying to find out. Yeah, yeah. So that's a pain.
Yeah.
So
Well, the FAA is just going to see almost zero compliance with this in the future, is what it looks like.
yeah, as we've said over the last almost 3 years now, if you come out with a ridiculous regulation, you're going to have widespread non-compliance,
And if you're
and this is
talking
a
about things that are, only a few $100s to begin with for an entire kit, or like let's say I've
yeah,
been
like
been seeing the like the Tiny Hawk 3 ready to fly kit that comes with goggles, a drone, and everything for less than $300. And now you're talking
right,
about adding a single component that at the manufacturer's
a-
cost is a third of
adding
that price.
right or adding $300 to the
Yeah. Now
transmitter,
you've suddenly just
right,
priced this thing that gets people into the hobby just totally out of reach.
right, right out of the market. Yep, yep.
Ah.
So so to end on more of a high note, I wanted to mention that before the cute little video of the monocopter. So I hope Alex saw this, and I hope he was. If we could scroll to the video of this, this is so I mean, is this engineer prototyping? Obviously, this young engineer has cut this out of plywood. This is just, I love this. I mean,
It just looks
the
ridiculous. It looks like something that's totally out of control, but is somehow managing to be in control.
So as I'm watching this, I'm thinking of that guy over there who's sitting at the monitor thinking, does he have like a piece of steel on the back of his head? Or so is he going to protect himself? And or is, does this guy, oh, don't worry about it. It won't hurt you. They, the last 10 I built, they were not out of control at all. So, but this is great. I mean, to me, this is just fantastic innovation. And so a monocopter, it flies, it's controllable, and why could this not be manned? Because everything is spinning. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant.
It's crazy.
I love the thought process of, all right, don't constrain yourself with the notion of, oh my gosh, we have to keep the fuselage steady because there needs to be an individual in it. Just let it spin.
All right, Alex, start racing these.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine the camera work to watch where you. Oh,
it probably doesn't work very well FPV.
Yeah,
Probably not.
You would need to have like one of those 360 cameras on there and stabilizing the video in real time to keep you looking in a single direction.
Or it would be a great party game, for FPV racers to try to just keep this thing in the air. I think that. So to me, it was great. I was really cheered up by the innovation, and it's
oh, there you go.
Components.
Like Meat was saying,
few things.
Match the shutter rate to the rotation rate, so you get one frame of video every time you spin around, and it's always facing the same direction.
Like the way you think, man. That's great. It's great. Love that. Yeah. So good fun. Any questions or comments? Obviously, not a lot of folks on, but I don't. Happy to be interrupted. All right.
And let's see, do we have another meeting in 2 weeks, or is that are we off for the rest of the holidays?
Good point. I have my schedule. Let's see. This is. Yeah, I think this is it for the.
So unless there's some crazy news from the FAA, like they tend to
on December 29th?
Want to do on the end of the month, right? Then this is probably our last community meeting this year.
Yeah. And our thanks to everyone who has signed in, who has listened, and who has watched. And we appreciate the ongoing support. And that's keep posted for those T-shirts. I think the artwork is beautiful, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, we got one more person less than who joined just for the very last few seconds of our stream.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Excellent.
If you have any questions, let us know.
Alex, anything you wanted to add?
Not that I can think of.
Fly fast?
Drone racing's done for the season.
No, there's still races going on. I have a race this Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I figured races.
I'd figured Champs was over. So yes.
Tiny Whoop.
I believe
Tiny Whoop season starts.
I believe Jesse Perkins is hosting something in Knoxville coming up soon, if I remember right.
Oh, nice.
That Joshua Bardwell was going to be at.
I know Drone Zone New Jersey's putting something on the 11th. Yeah.
Jesse Perkins reminds me. Sometimes it just seems like it's a small world out, because somebody who I've flown drones with in my neighborhood, she moved away and now is, according to Facebook, dating Jesse. So it's like, oh, well, that's weird. I've never met Jesse, but I've met his current girlfriend and flown drones with her before. But yeah, those weird things that come up on Facebook, like, and you see two people, like, how do you two know each other? I happen to know both of you too. Funny stuff.
It's not Photoshop. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, and we are wrapping up with the beyond visual line of sight arc.
Oh
That's
yeah, how
now
you've been
little.
attending some plenaries this week, right? Is there anything you can share? Are they coming to a consensus at all? Does it look like it's gonna wrap up one of these days?
Yeah, consensus is happening, and there are it will not be unanimous. There will be people who will have opposing views, and that's good and it's healthy. Um, so it's not, I don't I won't characterize it as, oh yeah, kumbaya, everyone has the same idea. I mean, we've got lots of opposing camps, but we've done a great job of getting to the level of consensus that we'll have.
Okay. So like in the
Should
final
have a
document, there'll be like a majority opinion and then there's room for the dissenting opinions in there as well,
Exactly right.
which hopefully
Exactly.
someday we'll all get to be able to publicly view.
Yeah, I've had at least one commitment that yes, the document will be published, and the way that that has to work is the document is delivered to the FAA, and then the FAA has to release the document. So if they don't do that um, punctually, I'm sure there are a number of us that will be nudging them to get that out the door. So my hope, first quarter, because the work will wrap up in January, and then give the FAA a little bit of time. Hopefully 1Q 20, and that's 2022 first quarter. Just we
Sure.
have to specify the year. So, but I'm optimistic.
Now, did you already talk about the ASTM standard for remote ID stuff? Like we touched on that with the FAA saying the height requirement, but they still haven't come out with anything for a remote ID module that's whatever you call it.
An up an update. So the ASTM does have a standard under F3411, which is remote ID, and then it that preceded the final rule of from the FAA. So ASTM has been working, and I'm part of the working group, so I'm part of the problem. Has been working on an update to that standard. This is important from the perspective of that entire updated standard when approved by the FAA, will become a remote ID means of compliance. That will save a manufacturer of either an integrated, or that is standard remote ID UAS, or a broadcast module easily 6-7 months of development time. There's a level of specificity, as well as it's accepted by the FAA. Once it's approved, if I adhere to this recipe, then all I need is a declaration of compliance, which will be a design level, not an operational level declaration, and the developer is ready to go. So you're absolutely right, Dan. That document, we wanted to get it to the FAA, updated, approved, and through approval in about the August-September timeframe. It is December, and it's still not in the hands of the FAA.
So
So
any
not good.
manufacturers out there who were counting on this are probably very nervous about what they're going to be able to do next year when the deadline hits.
They're getting anxious. They are very, and the member, it's a public record, I'm pretty sure. But members of the working group include DJI, pretty sure Parrot, Skydio for sure, and others, including radio control manufacturers like Horizon Hobby, are participants and members of this working group. So yeah, lots of anxiety. So, and the DAC, now called the AC, the Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee, we're working on one tasking group, and Alex is involved in that. That's the one I've been talking about, integrating aviation-based STEM curricula into K through 12 education across the country. So I'm learning a lot that I had no idea of how even our K through 12 education system works in the United States. I had no idea. I can tell you chapter and verse on how to release a computer into the 170 countries simultaneously, but I have no idea about K through 12. So very interesting, and it's state by state is the short message, and that's why we have such a patchwork of everything, and having to do with K through 12 across the United States, and we have a patchwork of STEM programs across the United States as well. So, and I'm optimistic that we'll provide something that's useful. One of the ideas is to put forward a set of accreditation ideas, or work with an accrediting body, and that could provide some level of standardization for curricula that would be FAA approved. So we'll see what we come up with a recommendation on that, or set of recommendations. Anything you wanted to add on TG12, Alex?
Not really. I think you covered that.
Okay. All right. Didn't want to steal
Also
it.
kind of tough to keep up with TG12 while school's going on too. So.
But it's all about
and
school.
That's right. But he's gone through K through 12. Yeah, no, you've got the right priorities, Alex.
Probably the closest one who recently went through K through 12 on the whole thing by several years. Probably.
The closest
Yeah,
is probably
at least a decade
double
before everyone else. Probably at least a decade, if not two, before ever.
4 decades for some people.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah.
For some people. Are you sure it's not 5?
It's pretty close to 5.
And they're supposed to have their recommendation, I assume, or their report by the next Triple AC meeting in February.
Exactly right. Yes, we will make that schedule by definition. I guarantee it, as they used to say.
Hopefully, have another 2 weeks less than 2 weeks of school, and should be all set to put more effort on that and other stuff like the 107 BB loss waiver
and tiny whoop racing.
I don't tiny whoop race, so.
Well, now it's time to start.
I'm still gonna go outside and fly my 5-inch.
Yeah, don't let the weather stop you.
Exactly.
Dan doesn't love those videos. Dan.
The crazier the weather, the better.
I just need to waterproof my quad.
A little conformal coating.
Yep. I have the stuff. I just haven't done it.
Oh, I actually saw a photo posted on Reddit where they had some icing forming on the rotors of their drone. I forget what they said. It was like an Autel drone or something. It's like, I'm really kind of surprised to see that actually happen. Like, I've flown in all kinds of weather and never been in the situation where I had icing form. I'm curious to know if, like, on an FPV freestyle flight, if that would be enough to keep the icing off. Like, do the propellers flex enough when you're maneuvering, or like you're accelerating and decelerating so fast that it would break the ice off?
Also going at a much higher RPM.
Yeah. I mean, I know the
like
FAA
60,000 RPM sometimes.
The FAA is all about, icing is super dangerous, and never fly anything when there's any kind of icing conditions. But I'm like, give it a shot. I want to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the worst that's going to happen is that the drone's going to lose efficiency and slowly come down to the ground. So.
Or become a brick.
Usually what happens is you get a big snowflake or ice on your lens and then you have trouble seeing where you're going, and then you have to come in for a not clear landing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That just sounds like any normal landing.
Oh yeah, my last crash was a leaf. I was flying around low to the ground and a leaf flew up right in front of it, and it's like, I was only obviously like a foot off the ground where the leaves were, so I just disarmed and dropped to the ground. But yeah, that happens.
I don't think I've had the leaf yet. I've had water, but I don't think I've had a leaf.
A little bug. I had a bug.
You had a bug on your lens? All right. Well, if no one else has any questions, should we wrap it up?
I think we're good. And to everyone, whatever holiday you celebrate, best of a holiday, and we'll talk to you in the new year.
And whenever we have our next meeting, we'll post up some information and let you all know about it.
Excellent. Thank you, gents. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.